Hey everyone, it's day 10. We made it to double digits! Woohoo! Go us? Sure, it's a team effort. So, day 10 started out in Houston and also ended in Houston. Fun fact for day 10. I went to the Space Center in Houston and the Johnson Space Center, and I also went to a brewery. So, let's talk about it, shall we? Space Center Houston doesn't look very big when you enter the visitor center, but don't let that fool you. There are so many different things to see and do and visit and learn about that, quite frankly, I could have spent a lot more time there, but I didn't have the time. So, let's talk about what's in there. They have an exhibit on the International Space Station, and then they have sort of a life on the International Space Station presentation a couple times a day. They have sort of a mock-up of a cockpit of a rocket that's really awesome to look at. I think it's a mock-up of one of the shuttles. And then they've got a few theaters where you can go in and see some of their videos. I went in to see the history of, what is it? The history of NASA, maybe not the history of NASA, but the history of the space shuttle program. And I'll be honest, I cried because that's how much I enjoyed the space film. Yeah, that's me. And then afterwards, I got to see moon rocks. Moon rocks! Needless to say, I was pretty excited. Also, part of the NASA Space Center experience is the tram tour that takes you to Johnson Space Center, where all of the work actually happens. So it's where mission control is. We got to see at the training facility. We got to see something else that I will remember in a minute. Something else. Something else. Rocket Park. We saw Rocket Park, so we got to see some rockets. Okay, so the mission control is the mission control from the 60s, so the famous one with Apollo 13, all of the Apollos and that sort of stuff. They have preserved it. They have all of the same viewing room. So the viewing room that people used to sit in the 60s is the same one we sat in when we viewed Mission Control. It was fantastic. What history, my friends? What history? So the training facility has real size, yeah, real size mock-ups of different equipment. The space station itself is sort of almost, the whole thing is there, or at least the pertinent parts are there. And they've got some robots, and it's where astronauts go to train before they head up on missions. And it's also interesting because if something goes wrong, they have a complete duplicate of the space station down on Earth in Houston, and people can troubleshoot here and then be able to send that solution up to the space station. I mean, really, how awesome is that? So the tram finally dropped us off at Rocket Park, which is where they have rockets, as aptly named by the name of the park, that you can visit and walk around and look and take pictures of. And then you get to go in this warehouse where actual Saturn V is. Actual Saturn V. They have restored it in places, and so it sort of looks new, but even though it's not, obviously. But it's like the full thing. You can't see how big that is. That's how big it is. And it's awesome to look at. You can walk all the way around it, and then they have part of it where it's disconnected, and you can walk under it and look into it, and it tickled my fancy so much. I loved it. So that was the end of the tour for me because the Rocket Park was the last stop. After hanging around at Johnson Space Center just a little bit longer, I headed out to the St. Arnold Brewery, and it is also in Houston, just to be clear. And I had some tastings of some of their beers, some new ones, and I also took a tour of their brewery, and it was a closer tour, Alexis. It was a more Maybe I did mean closer. You got to get closer to things than normally you do on a brewery tour. Normally you're behind the glass, or at least every tour I've taken, you're behind the glass, and this you got to walk right up to things. You felt the heat from the things that I forget what they're called. But anyways, it was pretty neat. Also the beer was delicious, and there were a lot of long tables, picnic tables, and people brought games, and that was fun to watch as well, even though I didn't play any games because I didn't know anybody and I wasn't in the mood to make friends because I was still excited about the Space Center. You know how it goes. So, St. Arnold's Brewery. Do it. It's worth a shot when you're in Houston. I rounded out the day with another dinner with Diana, and then I went to bed. So that is it for day 10, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye!
Eva puppy. Hello.